So we'll try to make this even a better one, and I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
You know? And this is going to be extremely relatable with people in general.
I'm sure it would be.
You know?
Because majority of individuals are stuck up only with relations and with sentiments,
Yeah.
whatnot.
But what are the problems that students are facing? What are those problems that they're discussing in terms of relationships?
Interestingly, relationships are failing from one own side. It's as if the people have a lot of expectations, and at the same time they keep on talking about expressing that they don't want commitment. आजकल ये बहुत trend चल रहा है situationship का. And interestingly, I thought that it is only pertaining to our generation, but it's more prevalent among the younger generation. And they all will come with a self-centeredness. I want this, I expect this, but they are not ready to see the other person's expectations. So it seems as if everyone is self-centered to such an extent that we are forgetting the notion of relation. And moreover, I believe there is a lot of confusion about what love is.
Yeah.
We confuse friendship with love. We confuse intimacy with love.
Infatuation with love.
Yeah. Even if a person is liking another individual, say for approximately 2 days, 3 days, बहुत अच्छा conversation चल रहा है, and they are vibing all together, for them it is love.
Yeah.
They don't even notice that it's just the likeliness or the likinghood that is making them reciprocate to that extent. And they confuse that with love, with relationship. And many a times people are not even there in relation. They're just vibing together. They have a lot of similarities and familiarities, but for them, they have their own fantasy that we are in relationship right now. And ironically speaking, recently I had a bunch of students coming one-on-one with counseling, back to back. They all kept talking about the same thing. It seems as if they have a lot of expectation out of the other person, and the other person never even said that they are in relationship with them.
They assume that they were in a relationship.
It's as if they are having their own fantasy that they are living in a relationship, and they are in a relationship. So there is no communication. There is no reciprocation. It's just that me liking the other person, and that's it. And they end up assuming a lot of different adjectives of love, relationship with the other individual, which creates chaos for them, not for the other person.
I mean, I think this is a new term that has come about, situationship.
Oh.
It's not a relationship, but you're not friends either.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think it's become very common. It's more like normalizing the fact that it's okay to be in a situationship. I don't think it's a part of life. It's a new term given to. पहले भी होता था, ऐसा नहीं था कि पहले नहीं होता था.
I believe, the word got constructed, okay, in order to let go of the responsibility. Because you don't want to commit. At the same time, you don't want to be in the relationship. At the same time, you want to be in a relationship.
And then you have certain expectations in black and white. Like literally, you can write down the expectations. This is what I want. These are my trigger points. This is what I expect. And this is what I'm able to probably cope up with.
Yeah.
Like this is my threshold of expectancies and expectations in general. I think it's a mess.
Yeah.
But what kind of an impact are these situationships having on the younger generation? I'm sure you're talking to a lot of kids.
Daksh, I'm telling you, it's traumatic. When situationship comes in, we don't actually understand what situationship is. Okay, it's just that till that very moment, I'm liking things. That's why I'm in it. The moment I feel I'm being pressurized or I'm not able to take in those expectations, I'll move out. So people say in situationship that we are there only for our benefits. We will be there only till the time we're able to adhere to each other's expectation. But beyond to that, if something else come up, then tada bye-bye. So people don't want to extend that relation. And that is enticing because then you don't have to commit. So fear of commitment आपका खत्म हो जाता है. दूसरी चीज आपको पता है कि लिमिटेड एक्सपेक्टेशन है, बस उतने में वी आर ओके विद दैट, बट एट द सेम टाइम वी आर आल्सो सीकिंग समथिंग. नो, व्हाई वुड अ पर्सन कम इन सिचुएशनशिप? दैट विल ओनली happen when you're confused about something. Maybe you're already linking onto a void of the other person, or maybe from your family. Ultimately हम बाहर रिलेशन से तभी ढूंढते हैं जब घर पे वार्मथ नहीं मिलता,
right.
या फिर घर पे वार्मथ मिला है बट उस तरह से नहीं मिला that I am seeking. So eventually I will look for that love and warmth outside. And in that also, if I'm fearful that this person is going to leave me, I'll be rejected, I'll be abandoned, eventually it gets a term of situationship. Let's be together.
Yeah.
And the person is hiding the emotions because then there's fear that this person will leave me.
True.
So we are perfectly okay to go in the situationship and we are repressing.
What kind of psychological impact is a situationship or the problems around situationship going to have on the younger generation in times to come? It's going to, of course, stay there. It's a long-lasting effect.
Yeah.
Kids who are 18, 19, 20, now exploring college life and experiencing these kind of things 6 years, 7 years down the line, किस किस्म का impact होने वाला है?
Nowadays, people have started experiencing all these things at a very younger age.
Yeah.
They are more exposed than I believe we were.
Absolutely.
When you were in their age or
Yeah.
I was in their age. And it apparently, it seems as if this current generation is pretty lost emotionally. They don't know what they are seeking. So, there is this theory of Alfred Adler, one of the profound pioneer of psychology, and he speaks about birth order. Okay, so according to him, the hierarchy of your birth will create certain temperaments of personality, which would make those prominent traits go forth as you age. So according to him, if at all the child, especially the first child or the middle child, if they feel that a sense of dethronement, during that time, that dethronement for those individuals is a parameter of rejection. I'm being abandoned, however, they are not. Or if it's a case of over pampering. So those individuals get aligned with too much of care, too much of warmth, too much of receiving but not giving.
Right.
So those individuals get stuck up. And again, the vulnerability that they have, I don't want to be abandoned, thus I'm okay to be in the situation because I like you. But that liking is so toxic because then the person is not able to distinguish between liking and love.
Yeah.
For the person, it's just that mujhe attention mil raha hai. That attention is confused. So you see, individuals in this generation are so lost on what they are seeking, what love is, what warmth is, and so the self-centeredness that they have, because of which they are not able to have empathy against the other people. They just want to be reciprocated, but they are not okay to put themselves into the other person's shoes to feel that. Thus, eventually, we are only walking towards the zone of expectation. I know how my expectation needs to be fulfilled, but I don't know how to fulfill the other person's expectation. Thus, there is no communication. Thus, there are ego clashes. Also, there is trauma hidden because the person is genuinely there in the relationship, but the other person is not there.
Yeah.
So it creates so much of confusion. So there is not just identity confusion, but there is also the confusion regarding what warmth is, what is relationship, what is connect. People talk about vibes a lot.
Yeah.
What exactly is a vibe? Just because you are connecting and you have a lot of similarities, we feel those are vibes. But the vibes will not have insecurities.
Absolutely.
Will not have fears. And then there are certain subtle vibes where the person feels secure and is able to grow. The person is not there to demean you. The person is not there to pull you down, but the person is genuinely there with you without any conditions. As stated by one of the psychologists, that is Carl Rogers, that unconditional love profoundly helps the relationship to grow. It's like one plant watering the other plant. I believe that's how the relations are. You water the other person and the other person waters you.
Will you actually call this companionship?
Compatibility and companionship, yes.
Okay.
Because compatibility is where we are able to adhere with our individual, and it does not come with compromise. It comes with adjustment.
Yeah.
Because the moment you're doing compromises, that means आपका एक component या आपका एक one self is going down.
True.
So it's like, I'm one of the planet in the solar system. The other planets are also labeled with my responsibilities.
Yeah.
And one planet is my person, could be my partner. So I tell this partner that, I have other planets also because I'm an entire solar system. So you are not the only universe I have. I have other components in my universe. And I explain the same to him, that you also have different planets which are part of your universe. Thus, we are able to sustain the sanity for that person, be it family, be it his or her friends, be it also the connections that the person has, the career also, the growth also, the relation also.
Yeah.
That's how we are able to have that harmonious relationship with them. And we are able to grow full-fledgedly with 100% notion and not just 10% or 15% कि मुझे सिर्फ तुम्हारे लिए जीना है, मुझे सिर्फ बच्चों के लिए जीना है. You are fully present there as whole and complete.
True. Very well said. In fact, there's that experiment as well, that there are like 3 balls. One is named your personal life or your social life. the other one is your family life, and the third one is your professional life, your work, your business. So you have your personal life, your family life, and your social life, family life, and your professional life. 2 balls out of 3 cannot ever be above 1 ball or on top. Like in the sense, if you throw 3 balls, up in the air, then 1 ball will have to be on top of the other 2
Yes.
because it's going to take priority, right? So your personal life or your professional life, along with your personal life, one of the 3 are going to be slightly above when the other 2 are at the
Yeah.
back seat.
Yeah.
So I think that really plays an important role, and I have personally faced that. And a lot of people, in fact, this brings me to another question: how do you manage your professional life and your family life well together? People talk about work-life balance. I think
So, I'll
it's not true.
connect this, what you just asked, with the previous statement that you stated, that in that experiment, only one is the top priority, whether others go down or they are less in priority. Interestingly, this is what exactly we do. And somewhere down the line, we end up lacking. We are not satisfied.
Yeah.
We feel the purpose is lost, or maybe we are just trying to regain the purpose. We feel lost in the life. So I believe it's not the priority which has to be kept in a hierarchy, but maybe it's a pie chart in which you are having the percentages equally distributed. If agar aap 30% work पे कर रहे हो तो 30% then let's bring it to the personal life, 30% let's bring it to the family, 30% let's bring it to the layer. So you also need to find your own space to have your own sanity and peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That personal space is that important. No wonder we have a concept of personal growth, which every psychologist and psychiatrist speaks about. So instead of having just one priority, everything is actually your priority.
True.
Again, a solar system can only exist when there is sun, when there are planets.
But this is a very important point, and a lot of I actually want to come back to the situationship angle.
Yeah.
How do you define a good and a healthy relationship? What are the factors and features associated with a healthy relationship? I think everybody over here, anybody watching this, listening to this, would want to know what a healthy relationship looks like, feels like.
I believe that any healthy relationship requires communication first. And more than that, it is extremely important for both of them to do shadow work. Because interestingly, when we get into relationships, in today's time, we are getting in relationship with those people who actually are showing us the mirror of our inner self. It's as if the trauma that we had, the trauma could be anything. It could be a subtle aspect of being rejected. We end up finding people in the same realm. So I believe that shadow work, communication, also to have clarity in what we are seeking. Because situationship eventually occurs when people are not clear with what they are seeking. They either want to be with the aspect of friends with benefits, or they want to be in the warmful relationship, or they just want to be there to forget someone. So I believe having that clarity can actually help the person to reach out and find the person whom they are compatible with. That will also help them to remove that ego clash and also mellow down a bit in order to understand the other person, and very importantly, empathy. We are hardly empathetic. So when I talk about empathy, that does not mean that the person is supposed to be there 24/7, just empathizing with the person, but more like being in the other person's shoes to understand from where the person is coming from. And not being the therapist, obviously.
Yeah.
But just being in that space to understand why the person is so reactive. Because the moment you're able to understand the other person, you're also able to mellow down those walls and they're able to speak. Otherwise, there will be no communication. Last but not the least, feeling safe. So, it's not just the physical safety, but it's also emotional and psychological safety.
Safety or security? Sense of security.
Sense of security, I would say that also. So one safety over here would be that I can trust you. That's why I feel safe to be with you. And then the sense of security where I feel that whatever I'm speaking will be kept confidential. So every patient also who comes to us, the very first thought process would be, will my information be kept confidential?
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see that all the patients we get, they share a very intimate relation, in the sense of they're able to bring in everything.
Yeah.
They expose themselves. I remember this one of my clients said, this is the first time I feel exposed. And I asked this person that, does that make you fearful? And obviously the reply was yes, but at the same time, I'm feeling a sense of security and safety that I'm okay to open that up. Because if I don't, I think I will suffocate myself. That sense of, as you said, security, and also that psychological safety that we feel, that all the information will be with you and you're not judging me. Very important parameter that helps the person to express freely without having the fear that, oh, I'll be rejected, I'll be abandoned, or maybe the person is just going to judge me that I'm not a good person.
I think that is a big insecurity that a lot of people have today.
Yeah.
That, I will be judged. How do you come out of this insecurity? How do you actually tackle this insecurity? Because a lot of people actually fail to come out of their comfort zones. They tend to not do things that they really want to. They don't express certain things that they really want to because of this sense of pre-notion, or this other pre-notion of being judged. So how do you actually tackle with being judged, or the notion of being judged?
It's not an easy task, I'm telling you. Because in 1 minute you have 44,000 thoughts. Imagine in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So in 60 seconds, if you're having 44,000 thoughts, hardly there are any thoughts which are going towards your growth. Majority of them are critics. And the criticisms is not coming from outside, it's the self-criticism. So every time you're doing something or I'm doing something, majority of my thoughts incline towards, am I even doing that right?
Yeah.
Because it's coming from observation, from learning, could be any kind of experiences also that we have encrypted from birth, from infancy. And eventually they all become schema, and that is how we reciprocate and respond. Thus, judgment is not a negative term, I would say. You can also have good judgment,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
The judgment word itself in vocabulary has brought in with so much of negative aspect and affect that we believe that judgment bolte hi the person is, this person is thinking something negative about me. But the judgment is just a vocabulary term. It could be positive or negative. I believe that self-criticism and how you perceive yourself ends up decreasing or increasing your self-esteem. So the observation that we have, that's what we subliminally attach with judgment. And one of the parameter how we can check in with the judgments, especially the negative judgments, or we can reduce the self-criticism, is by standing up for self and trying to know what we are, who we are, trying to find my purpose. Because eventually what others are seeking and we are adhering to that becomes a part of cognitive dissonance, where I'm showing something that I'm not because I want to be accepted.
Yeah.
Social approval. And practices like mindfulness, being in the present movement, also having professional help, they can help big time. Because majority of individuals are in a mental facade.
Yeah.
They are just into a spider web where they are trying to seek how and what I should be in front of the people so that I'm accepted. I believe judgment comes later. It's the acceptance part which makes them get more into the notion of being stuck with judgments. No wonder majority of times we are just thinking negative about ourselves. Because we so badly want to be the center of the attention or accepted by the people, be approved, be self-assured, be validated. These are terms that we use every time, but
Absolutely.
These come with very heavy emotions. Because every time, say, even if we are talking right now, maybe somewhere down the line, we might have a theme that, are we doing right? Is it going fine? Is it even good enough? Will people like it? So see, these are the internal thoughts which are in combination with all those 44,000 thoughts. So eventually we are judging ourselves internally. And that is creating a spider web.
But this is also it has a lot to do with predicting and seeing yourself in the future, looking at the outcome. Log kya kahenge?
Yeah.
ठीक निकलेगा नहीं निकलेगा? क्या perception बनाएंगे लोग? Am I going to make a fool of myself?
Yeah.
What if the society doesn't like it? How do I, undo it? So I think that's a lot to do with low self-esteem. Would you call that low self-esteem? And again, when I take these trainings, a lot of people ask me, I want to become a public speaker, but I have stage fright. I don't think I can even talk in front of 10 people. I don't have that confidence. And I ask them, why do you think you don't have that confidence? And they're like, I don't know how the people are going to react. And that is a sign of low self-esteem. That is not confidence. Confidence is always fluctuating.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I might be in front of 10,000 people, but I might still be low on confidence. But my high self-esteem is going to make sure that nothing goes wrong. that I can do it and I can get past this, even if I'm not feeling as confident.
Yeah.
So I think that's the level of mindfulness and self-awareness that one needs to really move towards. And situationships also bring into this, bring this factor in of low self-esteem, because we don't know what's happening. We want to be there. We want to get that attention, but we don't want to feel rejected, dejected. We don't want to feel hurt. So it's okay to be in that shallow space where I'm not drowning, but I'm not swimming either.
Adding to this, also being in that space where I'm able to forget the
Previous one. Yeah.
So it's like a person coming out of void, trying to fill that vacuum. And again, vacuum, in order to fill it up entirely, you're again walking into a relation which is not fulfilling for you.
Yeah.
So you're just increasing the void instead of getting it healed. And healing is an ongoing process, when I remember when people come up and say that, how long will it take to heal? The physical wound, it also takes good amount of time. But when we are talking about psychological and emotional healing, or even the relationship related wounds, it's a lifetime process, because eventually what we are seeking outside is what we have been seeking for a good amount of time. Until the time we are reaching down to that healing process, already there are a lot of other junction which has initiated.
Yeah.
So it's like an entire Pacific Ocean, which is hardly 10 to 14% being discovered, but the rest of the ocean is yet to be discovered. It's exactly like that unconscious realm, that universe which is infinite. Similarly, we are having so much of thema inside that we don't know how much is left, which is pretty exhausting.
It is, yes.
Yeah, and especially, when people come in therapy, they end up getting that exhaustion fear that, oh my God, kitna aur. But then we tend to forget that it's just a phase. It's just a place where we are letting all the triggers come out, and one by one we are tackling that. So eventually we are not resolving just them. We are helping the person to have that greater capacity to be ready for any other void or vacuum to come, and not be influenced that vastly or being unhealthy in that relationship. So eventually finding something that is healthy for them becomes one of the major tasks.
So brings me to my next question. How do you find someone or something or a situation or maybe a relationship or a category of people or maybe friends as well to be the right people to spend time with or get associated with after coming out of maybe, a toxic phase?
This is very debatable,
right.
Because
I know, right?
There is no right
and no right answer. And no right answer also. Like, there's no right person, there's no right answer to this.
Because how can even you know that I'm a good person?
Yeah.
So again, going back to one of the pioneer of psychology, Carl Rogers, when he constructed his theory and when he spoke about unconditional positive regard, he mentioned that every child who is born is actually good, or it's neutral. Good या bad, वो जो हम notion लगाते हैं, that is us.
Okay.
Right? It's the experiences which is making a person whatever he or she is becoming.
Okay.
All right. And knowing that this is right, this is wrong also comes from your maturity. I mean, if someone is murdering, raping, and someone is creating chaos or terrorism, that I can say it's bad. But if someone is ghosting, that is bad, of course. But there is a reason why the person is ghosting, because he or she might also have some inhibitions because of which they have made that attempt, which is traumatic for either of the parties. But eventually there is a core psychology that we also need to understand, because if that person is ghosting you, maybe you also might ghost someone else.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own inner worlds. So, just bringing that into a surface, that's what happens with the people. It's not like they're doing it on purpose. Some people might do it out of grudge. Some people might do it out of fun, that it has happened with me, so I'm just going to do it with other people. Revenge, Otherwise, it could also be a part of where the person is not into the zone to communicate. Maybe the person is already feeling scared or anxious. It could be any kind of aspect. So there is nothing like good and bad. There's nothing like having the right person. Either we all are right or we all are wrong. It's just that when we are communicating with the people, and during that time we notice that, oh, this is something that is not pertaining to my growth. Say, for example, you have a close friend. You're working together, and this is say you have done some task, very good task, okay? So instead of appreciating you, I would rather pull you down. maybe I'm not in a good frame of mind, but if I consistently keep doing that, it's definitely not healthy because I'm not okay with your growth. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. And maybe I don't know about that, but I am providing you the hints in my behavior. So, in all the relationships, not talking about situationship anymore, the compatible relations that we feel compatible hai ya love hai, we have so many of red flags. We don't see those red flags because eventually we are trying to rationalize everything. And since we also have that liking or we love the person so much that we forget, we ignore all the red flags. And this aspect where the person is demeaning or being toxic is a part of red flag. If it is happening consistently and we are being a part of that, that means we are being one with trauma. It's not the other person who is creating that for you. You are the one who is creating that for self.
Are you saying that you're the one allowing that to happen with you?
Yes.
Okay. But then how do you draw a line? Where does that
By
where does that line
creating
come
boundary, by being aware about self, by also taking a stand for self. Say if someone demeans you, your own friend, by expressing that I'm not liking it. It's good to say no. It is good to take a stand for self. It is very good to express what you truly want.
in? Yeah.
Especially in the intimate, close, love relationships, be it with your parents, be it with your siblings, be it with your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it is in the relationship. And it's not like the person is rejecting you or having an objection on you, but more like the person is taking a stand for self because the person also has own identity. So if someone is behaving in so and so way, it is my responsibility to express. If I don't do, maybe the person will never come to know that, oh, this is what I'm doing with you. And interestingly, a lot of people will keep behaving in the same way because they don't get any feedback. तो उन्हें लगता है हम जो भी कर रहे हैं सही कर रहे हैं. Like say for example in an abusive relationship, either of the mate, okay, humiliates the other person or maybe slaps or is physically abusing. All right. Now either of the partner can just sense that, oh, it's okay. Maybe whenever the person is angry, the person behaves like that. But if it is happening on a regular or consistent basis, it's not right, because that person is trying to dominate and you are being submissive, and eventually you are allowing the person to behave and do the same thing again and again, and that person doesn't even realize that you're not liking it, because for that person आपने कभी ना नहीं कहा, so that means you're okay with it. And one day you come up and say कि ऐसा नहीं चलेगा, that person will go under shock.
Yeah.
And that ना कहना is very important. हो सकता है कि हम in the beginning we can't do that. Maybe after a good amount of time we are reciprocating that, which is very critical and important. Then the other person has to understand that, oh, this is what I'm doing with this person.
I think this is what is called that honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Right? In every relationship, there's this like 5 months, 6 month time period, only if it lasts that long, of course. There's this 5 month, 6 month period where everything is lovey dovey, everything is fine.
Yeah.
We are okay with, whatever behavior is happening around us. But then there is a line that automatically comes up. And you're like, wait, I'm not okay with this.
Yes.
Like, I should not be okay with this. Right? And that is where that friction then starts taking place.
Interestingly, what I have noticed that in today's time, since we have so much of lectures and debates and discussion about feminism, now, even if for one glance, say the male partner, if he's saying that I don't like this behavior of yours, the feminism just outbursts. I mean, I'm a female myself, okay. But I believe in gender equality. So the mistake can happen from both genders. The whole idea is, and the understanding, which I would like to bring up here today, is that when an argument is happening, that doesn't mean that it's the first red flag. Because it can come up from any misunderstanding and a heated conversation also. But since we are so impulsive in today's time, कि हमें कोई भी छोटी चीज़ एक red flag दिखती है. And it destroys a very good relation also. So all relations are not bad. Maybe we are also perceiving them in such a way, and we are hearing so many of experiences. Media is also showing us a lot of faces of multiple things.
Yeah.
It kind of creates a lot of confusion. No wonder people are having identity crisis even in relationships. Like, what do I call a good relation? What do I call a bad relation? We don't understand that anymore. So I believe that if certain things are happening again and again, with that little pause, it can provide a clarity about the other person.
Absolutely.
You know, this is why, you know, communication is extremely important. Communication and mellowing down the ego state. Because once that happens, then only we are ready to even hear the other person. Like I remember this one of the incident that happened with me and my friend. So I was just busy with something, and she was trying to put her point, and I took it in a wrong sense. Okay, maybe because of her voice, or maybe I was too much busy, and I ended up getting passive anger. And then I noticed that she was just very calmly, she just wanted a task to be done. And just because I was having some negative thought or I was busy, I ended up perceiving that statement negatively. And my voice raised. A very small incident, you know, but that pause helped me to have an awareness about my own self, that how easy it is for me to get negative.
Yeah.
And that happens so much with us. Imagine when you're talking with your girlfriend or with your spouse or anyone, अगर छोटा सा आर्ग्यूमेंट हुआ है फिर आप टेक्स्ट पे बात कर रहे हो, पंचुएशन कभी यूज नहीं की, अब की है तो oh my god, you're going to have so many thoughts. This person is angry.
Absolutely.
Or maybe this person is showing me that sternness, or the person is humiliating me.
Capitals में लिख दिया तो हो गया काम.
Yeah, or the person is angry.
Yeah. This absolutely happens.
And many a times people don't even use too much of punctuation. अगर आपने एक full stop भी use कर लिया, उसी के meaning निकल जाएंगे. No wonder so many people go under misunderstandings.
And this is also one thing that I really harp over, and that is, please stop texting if you want to communicate something.
Yes.
Maybe send a voice note. Call that person up.
Yeah.
Right? Don't send a message. A message can be looked at in 15 different ways. And one comma here and there, one full stop here and there, it really changes the entire meaning, the entire emotion behind what you're trying to say.
Not just that, Daksh, I've legit seen the whole environment change around that person.
Absolutely.
And they can hold on to that emotion for weeks. For
a
month also.
Absolutely. And you won't even remember कि ये बोला कब था मैंने.
Yeah.
और किस context में बोला था. I don't even remember, and you're holding that against me even after 2 months. Yeah, this happens a lot. And so I think texting is a big no-no.
Big no-no. And especially in distance relationships, it's extremely important for them to have communication. Not saying ki roz aake milo, but having that FaceTiming is also very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, but doesn't mean that 24/7 you need to be on FaceTiming. That would be too much unhealthy also. But just having that on and off communication of FaceTiming and being in communication, directly, indirectly, that connect helps.
Absolutely.
Open, especially in distance relationships. Because I remember having this conversation with my brother, and he stated that it's very difficult to have distance relationships. And I would always disagree with that. I would always say that distance relationships are the beautiful and the best relationships if you're able to maintain that.
Yeah.
You know, because it requires trust, it requires communication, connect. And if it's in the same reciprocity between the two individuals, then nothing like it. And that relationship can actually become the ideal relationship with maturity, especially the people who are close in contact. You know, I've seen that how misunderstanding can easily happen between both the situations. One with distance relationship and one where people are there together. And being together, not having communication, just having expectation and not adhering to the responsibility, tumne ye kiya, tum itna karna tha, that creates more chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the people who are at distance, they have the same aspect. Hum roz nahi mil rahe, baat nahi kare, how do I trust you? Now, for their case, it's the trust.
Yeah.
How do I trust you? How do I know you're not being with someone else?
Yeah.
Right? And for these individuals, it's more in terms of expectations. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. So we are basically controlling the outcomes.
Yeah.
We are not noticing the person.
True.
We're just seeing कि अगर ये नहीं हुआ तो यानी हम compatible.
We are looking at it like an equation. It's not a mathematical equation.
It's like a business.
Yeah.
Eventually, we are just seeing the consequences, and on the basis of that, we are determining whether the relationship is going to go or not. So everyone has their own expectation. Either it's physical intimacy or it's emotional dependency. So codependency is a major factor these days. If people are codependent, then again, there is no empathy because I'm just seeing me in the relationship. I'm not seeing us in the relationship.
Exactly. I think relationships work out when you feel and you make the other person feel that you're on the same team.
Yes.
You are with each other, not against each other.
Yes.
Right? And
You work as a team.
you work as a team. It's you against the world. Like not against the world, but you are together in the good times and in the bad times. Even if there is one partner facing it, we face it together. I think that really plays an important role.
Yes, extremely
Right?
important.
And the moment in fact, from your point of when you said that long distance relationships versus when you're meeting probably on a daily basis, there are live-in relationships which will not work even if you're staying with each other, seeing each other on a daily basis. There's no guarantee that that is going to work.
Yes.
Versus a long distance relationship wherein you're not seeing each other for maybe months together, but still that can work.
Yeah.
So distance is actually not a factor.
Yes, it's not.
Right, it is not a factor. It's a misconception that if I'm not seeing you once a week, twice a week, 5 times a week, it cannot work. Or if you're moving to a different city, a different state, and you are busy over there, I'm busy over here, and we will meet once in 6 months, it's not going to work. That is also not a factor, right?
Distance is not
a factor at all. And a lot of people today, especially during this the early 20 phase, wherein you're exploring college. It's a different city, probably a different state altogether. Higher education, work. People travel for work, and you move out of your city or wherever you are, and you switch companies. And there are times when you don't get to see each other or meet each other physically for months together. And then people say that, no, this is not going to happen. But I don't think that's true. I know people who have stayed away from each other for like 6 months, 12 months, seen each other for one day, even after a 12-month gap, and they have still stayed the same. Nothing has changed. And I know them personally. So I know that there is nothing hanky-panky happening elsewhere. So that level of trust, I think it's very difficult to find today.
And it's very important. If you have trust, it builds your communication. If there is communication and trust, there is empathy.
Yeah.
And if there is a combination of all these 3 compositions, automatically there is no ego clash, because eventually when you're raising your voice, I would calm down and ask you, what happened?
Yeah.
Now, can we just talk about that? Okay, if you don't want to talk about that, so I'll wait. So maybe we can reciprocate when you're ready for that. But that would require the other person to be on the same page also.
So is it also important to be a friend first in a relationship? Friend in the sense, not friend turned into a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but friendship. Is friendship important in a relationship?
Interestingly, if you label the relation, कि हम अभी friends हैं, या we are girlfriend, boyfriends, या we are in relationship, I've noticed it makes a lot of difference, especially with the people who are having a lot of self-criticism and a lot of judgments about themselves, which are negative in nature. So for them, if they notice that you are giving me a label of friend, so I'm just going to see you as a friend. Later on, if it tries to convert into something else, the person gets very dizzy about it. Like, is it even true? Okay, should I be? I've never seen you with that perspective. How is that possible? Right? हालांकि हो सकता है कि they might be having this outburst of emotions for that person, but eventually the label that we give, it becomes stagnant. For some individual, I'm not saying for all. Now, if I'm giving it a label of relationship, then I'm only seeing that as relation. I'm not seeing you as a friend. So I believe that clarity is very important, that you're absolutely right. Sometimes things have to start with friendship, because eventually you're able to put down all the walls and you are you.
Yeah.
That's only that's when I can see that your dark side, your light side is this. And I believe I can handle both the sides. Or not handle is not the right word. More be in the same space with you.
Understand, relate to it.
Reciprocate, be on the same page that, okay, this is, compatible. This sounds great. I will not compromise, but it can be adjusted, because I also have the dark side. So it's like my demons are dancing with your demons. Yeah. So a relationship where we are able to see each other as friends, and accordingly the team builds.
True.
But again, because friendship is the only beautiful relationship where you have communication, where you have fight also, argument also, but at the same time you come back to talk about it. So any relationship which is having the sense of friendship, I believe it blooms beautifully.
Absolutely. Because when you're in friendship, or you have a very, very dear friend, there are times when things might not work out. You might have like a short fight, but then you leave it, you forget
Yeah.
it, and you move on. Like you don't even remember when the last time you fought over something
Yeah.
like that. And I think that's very important in a relationship. And the one of the other problems that happen around relationships today is that we hold negative fights we hold that as a grudge, even maybe 4 months, 5 months after that event actually happened, and we're like, why are you carrying that? Why are you still bringing that up? गड़े मुर्दे क्यों खड़ने हैं? उस बात को छोड़ो, आगे चलो. But that person is still holding that against you. I don't think that is friendship. It can't come out of friendship.
Interestingly, majority of friendships that you would notice, this aspect is personified. It is not a part of friendship, it's a part of that person. I mean, no matter how much good friends you have, but if I have the tendency to hold on to something, that means I'm someone who has never learned how to let go.
Okay, I have a friend with whom I have 2-3 friends with whom I am very close, and there have been times when we've said something to each other which is not right, and we've had that fight in the middle. But then 4 days, 5 days later, we get over a call, we try to pamper each other, and we are okay with it. But then I do have a set of friends with whom I cannot be like that. I just can't. It doesn't happen naturally. Like if you say something, then they know I'm pissed off. They know it's going to be very difficult, and I know in the same manner that it's very difficult to sort of tie that knot again and bring it back. एक बारी वो धागा टूट गया तो फिर वो गांठ बंदी रह जाती है. Something like that. I don't think with everybody I can do that.
Of course you can't, because if you see your own situation, there is both the partners, both the individuals, they are ready to communicate about it. Now the people जिनके साथ गांठ बंधी हुई है, गांठ खुल नहीं रही है, that means कहीं ना कहीं कोई तो ego clash है ना, because you get that sense, and why maybe the other person is still judging you, or maybe you feel that this was something that the person is not taking responsibility of, thus I'm stuck there. Thus the relationship can never go the way it was, because we already have our own experiences now which are holding us back.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know how to let go.
एक प्रॉब्लम पता है और भी है, मेजर प्रॉब्लम. ये जो फ्रेंड्स होते हैं ना, people who want to add spice in your relationship or add that मिर्च मसाला, वो जो पोक करते हैं third person factor, that अच्छा उसने ऐसे बोला, oh that's a major red flag, and that they inject that thought into your head.
Yes.
That whenever something like this happens next time, there is something wrong. And this happens 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and suddenly you are now reacting in a very different way. Even though that the other person, the person whose action to which you're reacting like this is in the best of his or her intentions. It's not meant to be perceived as a red flag. It might not be a green flag either, but वो जो friends continuously add करते हैं ना relationship में, I think that also leads to a lot of problems.
They will. If you find an amount of people, friends, not friends, they will come and speak things.
Yeah.
Now it is up to you what you're choosing to adhere. If you're someone who is suggestible and you have trust issues, you will end up believing the other person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you are going to put your belief system and your own trust on yourself, on your relationship under the carpet.
True.
Because more than you are seeing the other person's perception. So I can have multiple friends, they can talk to me, tell me about my relation. Maybe I can take their point in, but I would also like to observe how much accuracy is there. How much do I give reciprocation to their feedback? If at all I'm noticing, what they're saying is right, maybe I am blindfolded.
Yeah.
Then I would take an action. But if that is not the case, that means somewhere down the line, my friends are the one who are bringing their experiences and putting them on me.
Absolutely. खतरनाक दोस्त होते हैं बहुत. And I think best दोस्त वो होते हैं, the people who are your friends first, but also act like the devil's advocate. They're like, hang on, you might be wrong. Let's understand the other person's perspective as well.
Yeah.
I think those are the people who you should actually hold on to and keep by your side, because not every time your closest friends will always be like, यार तुमने बोला है तुम ठीक हो, दूसरा पार्टी गलत है. That is actually a wrong category of friends that you have. You need people to actually correct you even when you're wrong.
Yes.
And be a devil's advocate. Like I tell people that if you have a friend who is suffering in a relationship, girl or boy, whoever, and you want to help that person, be the devil's advocate as well. That person might be the wrong person in the relationship as well.
Yes.
And the other person might be suffering, which you don't know. So in order to give a good perspective to things, be the devil's advocate at times. Your friend could be wrong.
You know, it's interesting, especially among friends. It happens that, again, going back to that self-validation, self-assurance. So say if I'm having a friend and I'm in relationship, and if I'm not getting self-assurance from here, my friend is giving me that, I'll go into victim mode. That victimization is so strong, and being a friend, the person will have to show me sympathy, will have to show me warmth. So eventually he or she is not going to prove or say that you are wrong. Oh, it's the other person only.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm ruining my relationship, and the other person is adding on to it because the person trusts me, is empathetic, is sensitive. So eventually he or she will not even show me the real mirror.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to see that. Also, among friends, as you said, devil's advocate, right? So I believe taking that one pause can help the person to identify who is actually your right friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and again, not right and wrong, but actually someone who is genuinely there for you.
Yeah.
You can have 10 people in which, when you are really wanting a good advice, or maybe you want someone's support, there would be hardly one or two people who would genuinely be there.
Yeah.
You know, and that could only be identified when you are able to step back in your own situation and see what you are also doing.
Absolutely.
Which is a very difficult task, because no one wants to see the mirror. We all want to see it physically, but the inner mirror is not that easy to be seen, to be reciprocated with.
We all want to see the good side about ourselves,
Yes.
but we don't want to know the reality. And we want to accept that the good part is the reality. Yeah. Sometimes there are faults in ourselves, in our behaviors, in our approach to life, to approach to relationships, that we actually get drowned by the good factors that we have for ourselves. And we assume and we try to make that reality for us, that whatever I do for myself and this relationship, I'm the right one, and whatever wrong happens in the relationship is by the other party. And I think that really kills it eventually. That is where toxicity comes in to a relationship. Now, my next question is, how do you actually come out of a toxic relationship? A major problem, a hot question. A lot of people ask me this, that they're aware of the fact that they are in a toxic relationship, but they don't know how to come out of it. Identify a toxic relationship, and how do you come out of a toxic relationship? It's a hot question. Everybody is going through this, or at least once in their lifetime they will go through this, and it's very difficult to come out of a toxic relationship. You want to be there, you don't want to be there. There are so many things happening around it. Your mental thought process is being affected. Your you don't want to eat on time. Your productivity drops. You become far more irritable. How do you come out of a toxic relationship?
This is certainly the largest space endured question. Yeah, not just in the younger generation, but in my generation, in your generation. Eventually, identifying toxicity would first come with red flags. You know, and secondly, it's very important to communicate about that with your friends. Because obviously in the relationship, you cannot communicate that because the other person is not ready to understand that is why it is toxic.
Yeah.
And secondly, you yourself have so much of vulnerability that, oh, if this person leaves me, then what? And then there is another degree of emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you want to step out of the relationship, but the person says, "Tere liye maine itna kuch kiya." That itself is enough to put you into a guilt trip. And you become the prisoner of it. So talking about the turmoil that you have in the relationship with a sensible person, maybe with your friend, maybe the person will not help you with some advice, but the space of being heard is enough.
Yeah.
कई बार जवाब हमारे अंदर होते हैं, बट वो टॉर्नेडो वाला फीलिंग इतना हाई होता है that we are not ready to hear our own voice. But when you get the space of being heard, eventually it's like your inner voice is speaking to you. You just want that safe space where you can just express, you can cry, or you can vent out, right? That is very important to see the red flags. When we are interacting with the people, many a times there are red flags which are there, but which are not visible to us. We are not aware of that. Eventually it becomes visible. because it's like a sheet of dust in the atmosphere. The moment you express, you're heard, and you have that safe space, all that dust comes down. So the picture is much more clearer, and that is where we understand, oh, I have been enduring that for such a good time. And then having a position to stand for self. Say no, very important. Secondly, taking a stand for self. This is something I cannot endure and I will not like. And third, step out of the relationship. And fourth, take professional help. Because majority of people will not come out of the toxic relationship again guilt trip की वजह से, या फिर there is actually some um, aspect which is clinging them, which is coming down from the experiences that I will not get anyone else. Or maybe there is something that you are guilty of, you are hurt about, or you're scared, because of which you just cannot leave the person. Like I'll tell you this. So there's one of my friend who is in 8 years of relationship, and he knows it's a toxic relation. Okay, he knows that eventually he's humiliated, he's not valued, he bought a car, and instead of being appraised, he was given comments like, oh, you could have bought a better car. It's the first time with his salary he bought a car. If I was in the friend's place, I would rather appreciate him.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, you got it from your salary. Wow, that's amazing. Maybe that's what he wanted to hear, but he did not. And he's still in that relationship. So upon being asked why, he would say, 8 साल का relation है, कैसे छोड़ दूँ? I mean, do you see, the people are going with the quantity, but they're not seeing the quality of the relationship. He's perfectly okay to become the doormat. And he would endure that toxicity because it's a 8-year relationship. It's more like he's not ready to see that mirror at all of reality.
But then what is the solution to this? Like, does he look into the mirror and say that I'm done?
It takes a lot of gut and courage to do that. And for that, I believe friends are very important. Being a friend, I mean, I know after 8 years, now he has broken up.
Okay.
I was not the cause of that. I just asked him few questions.
Nobody's blaming you for it.
I just asked him few questions, that how about you just check in? Let's check your reality, no. Even if I was at his place, I will not leave the person, because 8 साल का relation is a lot, because you're giving something, you're investing a lot.
Yeah.
That investment is heavy. It's not financial, but it's emotional. आपने अपनी जिंदगी के 8 साल दिए. The sentence lays a heavy responsibility and emotion on the chest. But वो 8 साल क्या अब आप आगे carry करना चाहोगे? Because eventually you're not gaining anything out of it. It just seems कि आप उस पानी में स्थिर हो. वो पानी move नहीं कर रहा है. And it's water. Water is bound to move.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be stagnant.
Yeah.
Right? So being asked those questions, he himself had an insight that, future में कुछ तो देखना पड़ेगा. So it's upon to the person also. Again, taking a stand of and having a choice to stay stagnant or a choice to move ahead. Because eventually he's a human, not a tree.
Absolutely.
So he cannot put his roots under the soil and be stagnant over there.
Yeah.
I mean, even the universe is going to push him that, move.
Yeah.
Don't be stagnant there. I've made you a human with 2 legs and not with roots.
Yeah. Yeah, which is actually true.
Yeah.
Wow. अलग ही zone में चला जाता हूँ मैं. Yeah, seriously, it's a different dimension altogether. Also, another problem that a lot of people are facing these days are failed marriages. In India, failed marriages are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
But why? What are the reasons behind failed marriages today? Divorce rates are shooting through the roof. What's happening?
Not just divorces, but also extramarital affairs. Coming back to the basics, communication. And also, nowadays, people are so impulsive to be in relationship that they don't even see where they're going. Again, we have superficial fantasies, and one where I'm actually seeing my compatible aspects, right? So if at all I'm just having these honeymoon phases and I just have these superficial ideations, So eventually I'm just getting into something which I don't know. And eventually I'm seeing the red flags and then I'm regretting. Especially for the failed marriages, I believe people are too impulsive to be there in the relationship. They get very intimidated by the individuals, and then they are intimidated because then they are not able to take the other person, or they are not able to adjust themselves or their own self with the other individuals, and then all of a sudden they realize, oh, मुझे तो career में ये करना था, वो करना था, and eventually the whole purpose and the essence of the relationship is lost. I believe communication is a very strong factor. Having communication, having that compatibility, purposes, and also knowing that, do I really want to be with this person? With that void and a confusing state, marrying an individual is always a disaster, especially for arranged marriages, where the person is not even ready, but for n amount of purposes. Maybe you're being forced, or maybe you feel that, oh, I don't want to do anything else, let me just get married. At least I'll have a partner. Or maybe I had failed relationships, so I'm so disturbed by them that I'm okay to have anyone else and let's just live our life. करना क्या है? But eventually वहाँ पर आप एक नहीं दो जिंदगी बर्बाद करते हो. And say, even if you take that responsibility, at least take that as a responsibility, not as a task or as a proposal. कि एक बार खत्म हो गया तो ठीक है, but क्योंकि marriages कभी खत्म नहीं होंगे. It's a lifelong process. Till the time you die, you are together. I believe again, the essence of being together, the sense of relationship is so lost among people that we don't know what marriage is, what relationship is. And now marriage has also become more of a situationship. Yeah,
it's like a forced situationship.
Yeah.
Like bound by a legal binding.
It's so easy for people to be in extramarital affairs. It could be of any purposes. I mean, I'm not against it. But eventually, that also shows a picture of how disturbed individuals are inside.
True. Yeah.
That they want to be together, but at the same time, now they are seeking outside people. Now, are they only seeking them for the physical intimacy, or are they seeking something else? Is it more of a warmth? Is it more of a communication? Eventually, be it man or a female, अगर आपको एक relationship में वो एक वक्त नहीं मिलता है, आप time नहीं दे रहे हो, एक quality time spend नहीं हो रहा है, समझ नहीं रहे हो, eventually the person will go into other affairs.
Absolutely.
The person will not be there. It requires investment. Just because it's a love marriage does not mean कि everything is flowery. शाहरुख खान के पीछे violin चल रहा है, and etc. etc. It's a phase, and in every transition of the age, it would require some ignition of the fire, some element to spice it up.
Yeah.
So it cannot be monotonous. Obviously, monotony will bring boredom.
True.
Be it in your work life, be it in your career, be it in relationship also. So over there also, both the individuals have to work and sustain the relationship. And relationship is not only about being together and having kids, having the responsibilities, but also enjoying.
Yeah.
It's very important. I believe that is a segment that people forget once they start up with a family. That boredom also makes them go for extramarital affairs.
Yeah. And it's become so, unfortunately, like people have normalized it to that extent that I don't know if you know about this or not, but there's an app. I mean, there are multiple apps coming up now which are specifically for extramarital affairs.
Oh.
Like you are married, you are on that app because you want an extramarital affair. It's made for that. It's designed for married people.
Okay, I don't know about this.
It was all over the news.
I just know about these applications which are dating
No,
applications.
we know the dating application. This is specifically made for extramarital affairs. Now, just imagine the consequences, right? And of course, there has to be some bit of research that needs to be done around what those consequences really look like. But I mean, by the looks of it, obviously, we're not expecting both the partners to be on that app together at the same time.
But Daksh, again, this is being a psychologist. I'm saying this is very debatable.
It is absolutely debatable. I'm not saying, and that's why I said that we have to wait for the consequence. There might not be any consequence to it.
Be on one side and we can ignore the other side.
No, absolutely.
Again, when the life is very monotonous, you require that spicing. right? And if the other partner is not involved, you will seek the person outside, and that's not wrong.
Absolutely.
Because even if you go in the ancient times, people had polygamy and everything.
Absolutely.
It is still there, it's just hidden, it's taboo.
True.
But it's still there, because eventually we are trying to get out of that monotonous life. Thus, this is okay. And this is perceived as good also for majority of individuals. However, if one person is loyal and the person does not know about that, then it's a big trauma for that person.
No, but I'm also looking at it from a very different angle, and that is the family angle. Eventually, we don't know how many of these people on these apps have kids, have children,
Yes.
right? So that upbringing, and then we all talk about childhood trauma. We all talk about different problems, unstable relationships, unstable families, dysfunctional families. So what kind of impact is it going to have on those kind of families, as compared to and adding on to the trauma that a child from a very early age then grows up with, the kinds of problems associated around that, and then leading it to maybe a next generation and problems in the next generation.
It will.
Right? So that's the consequence I'm talking about. I understand being in the present and understanding one side of the story, but then the ripple effect and the repercussions of something maybe 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, that is something that we still have to understand.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's like COVID. Everybody got onto the online platform. Schools were shut. Colleges were shut. Exams weren't happening. Learning essentially was, taking a back seat. It was more of survival and other things as well. But people in that critical age where the brain is developing, you're in the school or the college life, the effect of not going to college, not having that social interaction is again something that will that is something that we will have to see maybe 3 years, 4 years from now on, right? So that research or that period.
Even now, during that pandemic time when people have not come out of houses, they have not had physical presence of each other.
I still know people who don't handshake with people.
Yeah.
They'll just do this, they'll put their elbow or they'll fist thump.
They have social anxiety.
Social anxiety. People will still wear masks. And I mean, that's okay to wear masks.
Notice one thing, that when you said it's a ripple effect, okay, so the individuals who are on those dating apps, okay, one thing that I said that it's okay because it's a monotonous life, and second part that I totally agree with you, it is going to have the ripple effect on the younger generation, that is their children.
Absolutely.
Because now they are seeking something outside. It could be for fun, but eventually that fun is also exaggerating in such a way that the warmth, the connect that they have with their children impacts.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, energy psychology, okay, or spirituality, it basically speaks about karma, how we are doing something and eventually if there is no reciprocation of that, it will end up coming to you or to the younger generation, right? So eventually it is impacting the children. It's again like a ripple effect. So who knows that maybe the parent is being so self-centered and want to be there in that extra affair, and eventually it's the child who is feeling neglected, or say worst thing.
Absolutely.
If the child ever comes to know that you are in an affair.
Yeah.
It is just going to destroy the whole identity, life, everything for that child. Yeah. And the remorse, the hatred that the child will carry till the time he or she becomes an adult. Nevertheless, psychopathologies exist because of that. Because eventually when I'm seeing something, I am taking that as a projection. So either I am going to become more of a socially withdrawal and awkward individual, or I'll end up becoming someone who becomes addictive to these behaviors.
Absolutely.
So maybe in future, I might end up having multiple affairs. I won't even know why. Because I observed that when I was a teenager, or maybe when I was a kid. Because now I'm converting that hurt into pleasure. So it's going all underneath the skin, which we are not aware of. Again, just like Pacific Ocean, hardly 10 to 14% of the things. I remember this statement from the Dark series in Netflix, where the person says that what you know is a drop of the ocean. What you don't know is that ocean. And it's so interesting that you can apply that everywhere, because eventually we actually know it's just a drop. Maybe that drop is also not fully known.
True.
So how can we know the ocean?
Yeah. I mean, the conversation is endless.
Yeah.
And it's not just debatable, but the fact that it is debatable just goes to prove that it's still yet to be explored.
Yeah.
And there's no conclusion to it, right? There's no scientific conclusion to things, and it's not a mathematical equation at the end of
It's
the day.
abundant. You can just keep talking about
About it.
that. Even if, say, the question that you asked, how do we remove the toxicity? It is easy to state that you can have communication. You need to have that boundary. You need to say no. You need to see the red flags, and maybe talk to a professional in order to get more clarity into that. But all this bringing into the practical application would require courage for that individual to actually make an attempt to bring it into reality. So I believe having more of subtle activities just to be with self and inducing compassion, kindness, gratitude, and also having an awareness with logicality can help balance brain and heart. See, both are important. Okay, brain will give you a lot of rationalization, heart will help you connect. So it's not either one. Like people say, heart ko shut kar do, brain ko chalne do. But अगर brain चलेगा, heart नहीं चलेगा, तो आप connect नहीं होगे. और सिर्फ अगर heart चलेगा, brain नहीं चलेगा, तो फिर आप अंधे हो जाओगे. So you require a balance of both in order to foresee what you're getting into and not becoming a prisoner of your own hatred. Because when people come out of toxic relation, they have this prominent statement कि मैं कितनी पागल हूँ.
हाँ, या थी, या था.
How stupid. मतलब मुझे ये करना चाहिए था, वो करना
मैं
चाहिए था.
अंधा हो गया था.
Yeah, but in that moment it felt right.
Right, yeah.
This is why you did it.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that you would start bashing yourself like that. You also need to see yourself with that gentle eye, because you became a part of that toxicity because you had your own fears.
Yes.
Or you were into a guilt trip, or you were, with some other experiences.
For whatever reason.
That gentleness can help the person to also see कि यार उस time पे ठीक लगा तो किया, अब क्या?
अब क्या, yeah.
That helps you to get that choice. Interestingly, Daksh, we humans have a big superpower.
Oh, I really want to know that.
Take any organism, fish, any animal, bird, they don't have a choice. They are what they are.
Okay.
They cannot change.
Okay.
We humans have a choice. Me being a female, I can convert myself into a man.
True.
Being a man, he can convert himself into a female, depending upon to the desires.
True.
I can change my reality when I have the choice. And every moment I have the choices. It is depending upon me what I'm choosing, and accordingly I'm co-creating my reality.
Yeah.
So I can change a lot of things.
The odds of becoming a human is 1:1 trillion, 5 trillion.
5 trillion.
5 trillion, yeah. So the odds are always against you.
Yeah.
The possible combinations, I think watched a documentary, and it wasn't a documentary, I think it was another podcast by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, with Joe Rogan, where he said that the odds A are against you. It's 1:5 trillion. So A, you're lucky to be a human being.
Yeah.
So make it count.
Yes.
And the possible genetic combinations will make sure that every human being is entirely different. And till the time humans exist, not all combinations are going to be they're not going to be completed. Like we will never have all possible combinations on the face of Earth.
Yeah.
Till the time Earth exists as a planet. So that itself really blew my mind. That I am going to be unique in my own way. I am unique and I have to make it count.
Yeah.
And by taking that choice of changing myself, evolving, reciprocating in the same way, having that self-awareness, high self-esteem, these are those factors that really, take you forward in life.
Yeah.
And make it count, more importantly. You're lucky to be a human being.
Yes, you are.
1:5 trillion.
Yeah.
And there will be nobody like you till as long as Earth is Earth.
1 in a million.
Yeah.
And what you said about the proposition of how many times you get a human life, and it's a blessing to be a human.
Yeah.
Interestingly, as I said, humans have the choice to be so and so. Now, many a times people have this question that why do I have to go through all these things again and again? What is the reason behind that? with the context of psychology, we go through the patterns again and again because there is some loop that we are in that we have not learned or we have not tried to break something that we are supposed to. So say for example, every time you meet people who would demean you, who would try to overpower you because you have never learned how to take a stand for yourself. So eventually you'll end up finding people who would help you to gain yourself back. Okay. Second fact, which comes from spirituality, basically speaks about karma.
Karma, of course. Yeah.
So every time when the person takes birth, it's the 30% package of karma which is adding upon. So if this is my 7th birth, I have 30% of each 6 times when I have lived on this planet or maybe some other planet, we don't know.
This just broke my brain for a second.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So this basically comes in from the psychology of consciousness, the collective consciousness, where we know about a lot of things, we have a lot of information, but the question is from where do we get this information?
Yeah.
So it's your collective consciousness which have all this impacted information inside, which creates that transition of path that we are walking into, right? And many a times whatever things are happening with us is part of experience, part of learning, part of what we are supposed to break free from, but also it is a part of karma. So what I am giving is also coming back.
True.
Interestingly.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very,
So
very interesting.
many
And
a
makes
times-
sense, yeah.
Yeah. And many a times, many a times, okay, I mean, this is not something I would want people to associate with, but it's just an interesting concept to understand that nothing is coincidence in this world. So if you're meeting certain people, there's a purpose behind it. And many a times we are into the relation because we have been in relation with those people in our previous life. It's a very interesting concept, but this is something that
Wow.
cannot be outspoken like that because it requires a good amount of research behind it. So based upon research, I'm stating this, but I don't think it should be spoken that bluntly and that outwardly, because then that will create a lot of confusion because people get into that criteria to understand, oh, is he my twin flame?
Yeah.
Is he my soulmate? And that kind of creates another facade in the mind because then we are stepping out of reality. देखा जाए तो सारे कंपोनेंट्स हैं, बट उन कंपोनेंट्स को थोड़ा दूर से देखने में ही समझदारी है, इंस्टेड ऑफ गेटिंग अटैच्ड टू दैट, बिकॉज ऑल दीज टॉपिक इंक्लूडिंग पैरासाइकोलॉजी, डेजा vu, clairvoyance, haunting, all these are very fascinating. They are there. You have some explanation, you don't have some explanation.
Yeah.
Same goes with the karma also.
Yeah.
But eventually we get so enticed that we see that as the entire planet, as the entire world, as the entire reality. Then it creates an escapism for us. So it's good to have knowledge, but not half knowledge.
Yeah.
And also it's good to tap upon that, but also to research it precisely.
True.
In order to understand what we are, how we are, what to do about it.
And if somebody can't really understand it or take it, it's better to not know about it.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I mean, it's deep. It's very, very deep.
Yeah.
Right.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, my brain broke. Yeah, I mean, I've discussed this so many times with you. But every time when you are talking, I'm also visualizing it.
Yeah.
So my imagination
It's
is going somewhere.
scary also.
And it really is.
I mean, it can be very enticing. You would just want to hear it more.
Yeah.
And
Very addictive.
yeah, and your brain will go and have multiple stories inside.
Yeah.
ये हुआ था, वो हुआ था, अच्छा वो कौन है. But eventually that will create fear also. So next time when you have to be in the relationship, you'll end up thinking first, oh shit, मेरा कर्मा तो नहीं है ये, कि ये मेरी soulmate twin flame कौन है ये?
You know, this actually happens with sun signs.
Yes.
Like, बहुत लोग ऐसा करते हैं. That when you start coming to know about somebody, you have that level of infatuation. The first thing that somebody who believes in,
Yes.
astrology and somebody who's really dependent on that, the first question will be, what's your sun sign?
Yeah.
What's your date of birth? What is your sun sign? Am I compatible with you or not? पहले तो मैं वो देखूंगा. उसके बाद बात करेंगे. मतलब and it's a fact that it's on paper that sun signs are not compatible with each other.
Yeah.
And some are very compatible with each other. कईयों के बीच में हमेशा friction रहती है. Some of them are compatible to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then all those things will also play on your mind.
Yeah.
when you come to know about somebody or somebody new, or you're looking out for the right kind of people, it breaks your brain.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's just like, I mean, is it okay to keep that as a filter? Is it not okay to keep that as a filter? Why to start a discussion based on, or look at the next 2 years based on what your sun sign and your date of birth is?
Linda Goodman, she has written a beautiful book about zodiacs, okay? And she has specifically mentioned about zodiac of a particular employee. Say, I'm a Scorpio. So Scorpio male, Scorpio female, Scorpio child. And people will go to that extent that if I marry this person, what sign would my child be and what will be the characteristics?
Really?
Yeah. Interesting way. Okay, it is addictive. Say आप एक बार tarot card देखो and if it is having the outcome that you are expecting, you will become addictive to that tarot card reading. And eventually, if tarot card reading work with the present energy, okay, so in that maybe the tarot card readers say that, oh, the person is going to meet you, the person is going to drop you a text in about 10 days, and then you will start imagining that the person is going to have reconciliation with me, and it doesn't happen, and then it just breaks your heart. Right? Now similarly with zodiacs, I'm not nullifying the fact that it's not true, it is. Okay, but there is this misconception that we have that whatever I'm reading about the zodiac, it's the ultimate truth, which is not. Okay, every zodiac has a continuum, just like seesaw. All right, like I can be an extrovert, but on a range of 0 to 10, I might be 6, 7, but I'm not 10. So either many people would say I'm an ambivert, but कोई तो एक trait है वो ज़्यादा high ही होगा.
Got it.
आप average में जा सकते हो. You can be a combination of both, but one trait will always be high. So same goes for the zodiacs also. You would notice that zodiacs have the dark side and the bright side. You would notice that, say, Leo, for example, they're considered to be the signs who are dominating, who are highly intellectual, and who gets attached, who are dependent. But there are also Leos who work with a lot of rationality, and they work on their dominance. So you would find them reciprocating and very supportive. So there are two continuums. So what zodiac is actually telling you is not the absolute 100% truth. We need to go more in depth to understand what are the dimensionalities of that. And compatibility, yes, that is true. One zodiac will be compatible with the other one. However, it's again not the ultimate truth, because the individual is own persona. The person has different experiences. Me as a Scorpio, you being a Scorpio, we are different because our brought up is different, our experiences are different, and the collective consciousness is different. So eventually we might have some similarity, but you are you, I am me. So eventually me being compatible cannot be seen with the zodiac. You need to know me first. And since I'm doing shadow work, that is, I'm also noticing my demons, which could be, having lack of self-esteem or having lack of self-assurance or validation. So if I'm someone who is working on my shadow side, I'm also becoming more brighter. So I'm not the dark Scorpio, I'm a light Scorpio. That distinction, I believe, is not well aware by the people. We become so constrained with the aspects that is shown Instagram reel. It will show you multiple things. I remember one of the persons said, every time, so this is a tarot reader on YouTube. His name is Sal. Okay, I love following him because he's someone who would always do a lot of commentary when he's talking about that. But every time he would pick the card for a Scorpio, he would say, "Oh my darling Scorpio, what did you do now?" So it's a very negative comment that I perceive, that as if Scorpio come with a heavy baggage of karma, they are the worst sign. Every time bad things will happen with the Scorpio, right? That is what people also believe in. But Scorpions are actually the ones who are very emotional. They are, up after Cancer, they are the most loyal sign. You be there and the person will be there no matter what the situation is. So we know one side of the zodiac, but we don't know the other side of the zodiac. So I believe just having that component to see the compatibility is not so okay. Knowing the person is more important. It can be enticing to see the traits, which would be obviously similar, because Kundali, Hastarekha, the palmistry, everything, numerology, they all have a base to it. right? They can tell you about the person, but what about the experiences of a person? If the person is already doing certain things to come out from the zone where he or she has been, that means the person is becoming something different.
True.
So the other traits of that zodiac or the kundali, it also changes. Like for your palm also, after every 6 months, the line would change.
Oh,
Yeah. And people, they do palm mystery and then they are believing that for the next of the 6 years. Reason being that, whatever you write, everything is energy. The pen also have the energy. So whatever you're writing, the sign that you're creating, or even the thought, the intention goes into your pen. So if I'm right handy, I'm doing all the good and bad karma with my right hand. So eventually I'm co-creating my reality, no?
yeah.
So
True.
if I'm putting the intention of doing something bad with someone, my hasta rekha will change. And if I'm having a good intention, all the troubles that are there are going to have some support mechanism. So जब आप किसी trouble में होते हो, आपको लगता है मदद नहीं मिलेगी, but random people will come to help you out. How
Yeah.
does that happen? Because there is something that you have done which is now coming back to you. All the terms of services, in the terms of help, and it's just coming back to you, help you.
Another important question that a lot of people have been asking these days, and that is how to be mindful of the surroundings, of what you're doing, of yourself, and at the same time work on your emotional intelligence, EI or EQ, that it's known as. I think is very, very important
Yeah.
in our professional lives, personal lives, in terms of our growth, in terms of exploring new opportunities. So how does one actually work on these two?
Awareness of self, A, and that awareness by bringing in mellowing down your own boundaries, being okay to explore self. So I believe that taking pauses to be with self is very important. So being with self is not doing things that you feel are good, just like going on self date or buying something good for yourself, because that you're doing to please yourself, which is good. But eventually also being there with your own emotions, because there's this one technique that we do with children. So in order for them to understand and to have awareness of what they're feeling, we have a timetable for them, that for in between this to this duration, for this to this minute, you need to be angry, you need to be happy,
Oh.
you need to feel that disgust. So there are 6 basic emotions, and we all know about the emotions, but we don't know how we feel those emotions. So
Yeah.
I can be sad, but I would end up saying the sadness is depression. But depression is something very different altogether.
Entirely different, yeah.
Yes. And I can be happy, but my face can have a very blank affect. So eventually, if I'm happy, I'm not even feeling that happiness. So I believe connecting with the emotions, not just with the words, but also with the sensation and feeling that we feel inside, will help us connect with our emotions. That's A. B could be where we are having the bridge of empathy. So putting ourselves into the other person's shoes in order to understand what the other person is going through, because EI is not only about having an awareness, but also understanding own emotions and other person's emotion, and at the same time reciprocating to that, managing that, regulating that in different kind of situations. So regulation will only happen when I'm able to understand what is happening with me, with the other person. Again, that is happening not to be with the person, not to become a doormat for them, or not to be just highly available for them, but just in order to hold that space for them. So that understanding can help the person to connect, to reconnect, to communicate, to mellow down those judgments, and to be in a secured space where we can be there, just be. So being in that present moment, having that communication, having that bridge of empathy, having reciprocation, communication, they all can help to have a good relationship. They can also help the person to know about self. So I believe in self exploration. This is very important and integral part to acknowledge. जब तक acknowledgement नहीं होगा, तब तक acceptance नहीं होगा. Till you don't have the acknowledgement and you're not able to accept certain things, there is no way that you'll be able to let go of anything.
True.
Because eventually letting go is happening in the mind. You are rationalizing it, you are intellectualizing it, but eventually we are not able to let go because emotionally I'm still clinging on to it, because there is something, it's like episode that is to be continued. Something that has
Yeah.
not ended. There is no closure. There is no ending to it. Maybe
Yeah.
from both the side, or maybe for you, because you're still angry. You did not get some answers. Maybe you're still angry because how can the person do something like that to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is no closure that you are feeling for your own emotion, right? So that acknowledgement of why am I clinging on to it? Why am I feeling so? If I'm angry, I need to acknowledge I'm anger,
Yeah.
because that anger is not just anger. It could actually come down from hurt, from pain, from disappointment. Maybe you're hurt because the other person was there but you were not there, or maybe the other person kept on doing certain things you kept noticing and you could not let go
Regret.
when you had the time. Yes. So deep embedded feeling are going to have a 3-tier feeling altogether, which will lead the person to become a prisoner again. So I believe in order to have that self-expansion view, that acknowledgement is very important. It provides you an open space to accept it. And that is where you can see the choices. Otherwise, we are always in denial. We don't want to see anything at all. We are just okay with how the life is going, and we are still frustrated and we are not satisfied.
That's actually a very interesting point when you mentioned this activity that you do with kids. So we used to do this back when we do dramatics. So whenever we practice dramatics and we have our theater workshops, we used to do this where we have to, so there are like 15 people, 20 people walking in a room randomly. And we have to have an expression of sadness, but deep within, we are suspicious of each other. And that situation changes, and our theater coach would say, change. And the next change is that we have to, the facial expression should be very sad, but deep within, you're very happy.
Wow.
Or the other way around, that we are very, very happy, but deep within, we are very, very sad. So now what's being portrayed is very different from what we are actually feeling deep within. And theater and dramatics, they've actually taught me this, that emotions, improvisations, empathy, understanding what the face might be able, what the face is saying could be very different from what that person is actually feeling.
Yes.
So dramatics and theater really, really teaches, and I really preach this whenever I go to schools and meet parents, that please put your kids in dramatics, in theater classes. This is where they actually learn a lot of emotions, empathy, understanding body language, and also having that self-control of each muscle on your body and your own emotions. It really, really helps. And this really impacts little kids, growing up. So they learn these things at a very early age. Or rather understand it at a very early age. And when they grow up, and I'm looking at myself as an example for that, and a lot of people around me who've been through that journey of theater and dramatics, we are actually a little more aware of what that face might be saying, but what deep within you might be feeling.
Yes.
Why? Because that is understanding our own psychology, right? And so we can now, think about somebody else's psychology. That, okay, this person is not in a good mood today, and there could be something behind it. So let's not take it on face value and just allow that person that benefit of doubt, that person is behaving today in a very negative way. हो सकता है कि उसके पीछे एक story है.
Exactly.
And that is empathy, and that is emotional understanding of the other person. So again, it's very important to know what those emotions in the background, might be. So even if I'm really, really happy and I'm walking around with a nice smiling face, I might be deep within conscious about myself.
This is very, very true, and everything starts from self. I've seen a lot of students who basically have smile when they are in pain.
Yeah.
And they're talking about breakup and all the pain, or maybe whatever mishappening is happening at home, or maybe in friendship, and they would have this painful smile, and for them they're like, oh, I'm okay, my face is like that. They're not able to recognize what they are going through. Thus, no wonder they feel so distorted and spaced out, and they are dissociated sometimes when they are into the reality. They are talking to you, but at the same time, they're not present there.
Absolutely.
So mentally, they are somewhere else because they are still fixated. And now they have started converting the pain into pleasure.
Yeah.
It's very sad to see all that. And I believe just the expression of that and understanding what is happening can change and have a 360 round difference altogether.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is self-awareness. For yourself, because self-awareness will then lead to understanding other people around you as well. So I think it starts from more of self-awareness
Yes.
and then branches out to the other people that you. So and that's why it's very important for it becomes slightly easier for psychologists to be self-aware and with the immediate people around them. It is something that they can also foresee. They can see through the lines.
Yeah.
They can read between the lines. It becomes a little easier for them to identify problems.
It is easier, but I mean, as you say it, but then when we are actually sitting in that space and trying to understand the person, trust me, it's not easy.
No, it's entirely different.
Yeah.
But you can sense that
Yes.
there is
Yes.
something that you would probably want to talk about. You do that with me. you do that with me.
I do.
Are you sure you're okay? Something is, you can catch it. You know how it works.
Yeah.
So I think, of course, experience speaks a lot.
Experience, but I believe, along with experience, it's very important to be in the same space with the person. Maybe I can just superficially talk about things, but then I'm not there with you.
Yeah, you have to feel it, the energy, the vibrations.
Like right now, maybe we can just have an interview which could be very superficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one could be that we are actually in the space, so it's connecting at a different way altogether.
Yeah.
So that changes the whole environment all around.
Yeah.
And it creates a safety net. So it's very important to be on the same
Absolutely,
page.
absolutely.
I believe even for the expression of the emotion and what we are talking about, acknowledgement and acceptance, for that also we need to have that safety net for the person.
True.
If the person is not feeling secure, there is no way the person would even be ready to acknowledge the emotion, because already the person is feeling so much of threat. What will the person say? Oh my God, I will be vulnerable. What if I cry? Especially with males. We are seeing a lot of sensitivity among males also, but still there is this taboo that the male cannot cry.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to break down. They're not supposed to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And vulnerability is the biggest strength.
Yes.
It's not a weakness.
Yes.
I believe that's what we have been saying, but we still are far beyond to implement that.
And these vibrations that you were talking about, being in the same room, feeling the vibe, feeling the vibration, the energy. That actually, again, I have a very interesting example around that. So, for example, you have a cook at home, or if there's somebody cooking food, that person might have the happiest face.
Yeah.
But if that person is really sad or is very angry from within, the food that you will be eating will not taste the best.
Yes.
It will not. The vibrations will carry.
Yeah.
And if that cook or whoever is cooking, the person, I'm referring to the cook as the person who's cooking food, is extremely happy, is positive, wants to cook, the food that you will taste eventually will be the best.
Yes.
That this person will be cooking. And that really you can feel this at home. Someday
Yeah.
you're having a bad day, or whoever, your cook, your mom, your dad, somebody's cooking something, or even if you are cooking for yourself and you're in a bad mood, you're not going to enjoy that meal. You can't.
Definitely not.
The vibrations carry, and I have seen that myself. Like, I felt it myself. There have been times when I know कि यार वो अंदर ना कोई लड़ाई कर रहा है, किसी ढाबे पे मैं खाना खा रहा हूँ और वो अंदर चीख चिल्ला रहा है और वो खाना बना रहा है साथ में, वो मुझे खाना समझ ही नहीं आएगा. मैं उसमें हमेशा गलतियां ही निकालूंगा.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who's very politely, very nicely making food for you with all the love and affection that he has for making food and for feeding people, that food will always taste good.
Yes.
It's not a psychological thing. I feel it at a sensation level, not at a psychological, at a sensation level. It will taste good.
Yeah, because
So-
everything is filled with energy.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Big Bang starts with energy.
Yeah.
And all those elements via which the universe has been created, we have the same elements inside. So we are vibrating at a particular frequency.
Yes.
This reminds me of this experiment, which was done by Dr. Matsumoto. And he did that experiment on DNA of the water. So what he did was that he collected the water from different continents, and the continents which were having a different kind of environment, anger, hostility, like the war-prone areas. And then he noticed the sound, metallic sound, or the Beethoven sound, prayers and everything. And he noticed the DNA. It was a pre and post experiment where he noticed that the people who were having a lot of distressing and discomforting emotions, the DNA of those area water was very disrupted. Okay, it would look as if it's dispersed, it's breaking, not so good. And when at such places they had more of people who were praying, who had a lot of compassion, love, good intentions, the DNA changed.
How did he figure out the DNA?
So he did that with a microscopic level. He checked
Okay.
the DNA of the water, and before the prayer or before the intentions, he had just collected the water. And in that, he noticed the cube. So there are structures of the DNA that you can notice. Okay. Now, beautifully, when he picked up the water from the places where there is a lot of gratitude and prayers keep on going in, the structure of the DNA converted into something of hexagon structure, and it was exactly how you see the snowflakes.
Oh.
It was beautiful, and the vibrancy and the structure, it had a good strength. Whereas if you see the DNA pattern of the water which comes from the nearby area where there is a lot of anger and hatred and people just have a very sulking, distressing emotion altogether, the DNA structure was very dispersing. It was very thin. It was breaking the strand. It had a pattern. That pattern was blocked. It's as if you have put a hammer on this particular pattern and it's in the pieces. It was just like that. And the same pattern is now changing when the vibration around the area is changing. So imagine if that can happen around the continent area.
Yeah.
Majority of our earth is filled with water,
Yeah.
right? And the same amount of water we also have in the body, that is 70%. So eventually, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, you are having the capacity to change your DNA.
Yeah. That's very deep, and it's sometimes mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
And when you actually start understanding these things, you really look at life in a very different way. And I started doing that when I started feeling this. So for me, sound energy plays a very important role. For me, so I'll give an example. After light energy, which is the strongest form of energy, it is sound energy. It's the vibrations, right? Now, what sound energy can actually do is, so for example, you're listening to music.
Yeah.
It's nothing but rhythm. It's a form of rhythm. It's a type of rhythm. So if you're sad, a certain type of music can uplift you. It can make you happy. If you're really, really happy, a certain type of music can actually mellow you down.
Yes.
If you are really lonely, it can actually make you feel loved in its own way. If you're extremely bored, very lazy, certain kind of music can actually get you on your feet and start dancing.
Yeah.
Just no matter how sad you are, no matter how irritated you are, if this track called oh ho 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 oh ho ho ho, if that starts playing, there is no way you're sitting on your chair. You are dancing.
Yes.
Right? It just changes your DNA for a minute, right? So that is sound energy. It can वो हंसाते हुए को रुला सकती है, रुलाते हुए को हंसा सकती है, right? नचाते हुए को बिठा सकती है और बैठे हुए को नचा सकती है. So that is sound energy. So I really believe in that. And there are times when I'm feeling burnt out. I need something to mellow me down, or just to be in myself. I listen to a lot of good music, and my kind of music. Something that I can enjoy. Or I go out. I don't drink. I don't smoke. No bad habits that way. I don't want to call it bad habit. For people, it's okay. But for me, I don't do all of those
because
acts
they are injurious to your health.
in certain ways, yeah. So I don't smoke, I don't drink, no hookah, nothing. But I still go out to clubs and listen to good music wherever there is. And I know these places, where I know my kind of music is being played. And there are certain bands that you really enjoy because you like their rhythm, their notes, the way they play those tracks. And there are certain type of music which you don't really enjoy, right? So it has a different effect on you. So music and sound energy really plays an important role. To your behavior, to how you're behaving throughout the day. Maybe right before a meeting, if you listen to a particular track. Throughout the gym, when you're working out, there's a different kind of music being played. When you're maybe inside a temple, there's an entirely different emotion of music and sound energy. That is something that you can feel. So yeah, plays a very, very important role. And these are vibrations. This is nothing but vibrations. It's hitting your eardrum. It has an impact on your brain, and you automatically react in a very different way. So it's all science.
So adding on to that. Self-ego frequencies, if you have heard of that, all the music that we have, be it Hollywood, Bollywood, Japanese, Chinese, whatever, instrumental or word-like songs, they all work on those frequencies.
Yes.
Even when you do, this is also having a frequency.
Yes.
So scientifically speaking, we all are working with those frequencies.
Absolutely.
And eventually your emotion also has a frequency.
Absolutely.
It's not your thought. It's more of that emotion that is connected with the thought, which is bringing those things. Again, ripple effect.
Yeah.
So those ripples, down the line, you throw one thought with that particular emotion, you've already sent that message. Okay, now we don't know when it is going to come because it's a wish you have already put. मुझे ये चाहिए, काश ये हो जाता, काश हटा दो, मुझे ये चाहिए.
Yeah.
Now I have put that thought, and after say 10 days, 15 days, now I'm feeling maybe it is not going to come true, and now I'm sending another thought. Now what happens is one ripple which has already been left, the another one goes there. Now till the meantime it's coming, it's a clash.
Yeah.
So eventually what we are manifesting, we don't receive that because we are sending different frequencies altogether, which ends up clashing. It's
Again,
interesting how that works.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think it's important to manifest,
Yeah.
but allow it time as well.
Yeah.
Right? I've had times when me and my team have been able to manifest certain things, but it's taken time to come back to us. But I can't be addicted to the fact that कि मैं कुछ सोचूंगा और मैं बोलूंगा यूनिवर्स में तो वो वापस आ जाएगा.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, that is the power of manifestation.
Yeah.
You know, and it exists. Like in my opinion, it absolutely exists.
And interestingly, you know, a lot of people get fixated with the relationships because of these frequencies. Because they are sending out that I want this kind of person. You get those person, but then you're not working on your aspects. Thus, आपने signal भेजे, यहाँ से दूसरे signal गए because you're fearful कि मुझे इतना अच्छा इंसान कैसे मिल सकता है. You ended up doubting your own frequency, and then it clashes again.
Yeah.
So even if we are in a good relationship, we end up distorting it because we are not very sure about it.
Yeah.
And also we are not ready to receive it because we are so much adapted that I cannot get anything good.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important. So a very simple thing, matlab, for me, it's easy to receive, but I'm not able to give. For a lot of people, they're able to give, but they're not able to receive. Your hands, the sustainability of how you feel when you're placing them upward or downwards, it can also tell you whether you are a person who will receive or who is okay to give.
Yeah.
Or you are a balanced person who will do both.
It's mind-boggling if you think of it. It really is. But on that note, ma'am, thank you so much for doing
Thank
this.
you
This
so
has been a great conversation. By far
Same
one of the best
here.
I've had. I think we've touched upon pretty much every aspect of what the agenda for today was, and
I think much more beyond
that, certainly beyond that.
Yeah.
And one of the most intriguing conversations I've had till date. I've learned a lot.
Thank you so much.
And I hope that the viewers and the listeners also, you know, take back something very important for this.
Yes, I enjoy this more.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy teaching also, but more than that, I enjoy discussing about some aspects which are core. You know, you can read about them in text, but then there are hardly people who would put them into a context of practical application so that people can relate.
Absolutely.
If some context is relatable, it touches the heart of the people. You know, because it feels, oh, that is me. I have been in that situation. So when they are able to relate with it, that is where they are able to have that aha experience that, oh, this is what is happening.
It's all about relatability, right?
Yeah.
It is, everything is about relatability. From marketing, look at the ads these days. Everything is relatable.
Yeah.
Right? From marketing to even learning today, your teachers, your professors have to now entertain you in a certain way and educate you at the same time, that it becomes relatable and you know that this person is trying to teach me something.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you just zone out.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to keep that attention today. If you're not relatable, you will lose out on somebody's attention.
Yes.
It's very easy to lose attention.
And I believe that, you know, when we talk about education, having value education, and also talking about ethics and professionalism, when there are examples or there are case studies which are related to the live examples, that is where people are able to put them into their life.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Eventually the education is going to help you with all the certifications, all the degrees and everything. But when you're working in the professional setup, you require that practical knowledge more. Like, I have to present, how do I deal with that anxiety?
Yeah.
You have told me about meditation, you have told me about walk and everything. I've been doing that, but it's still not coming down. What is wrong? Because it's only working with your physiology. But eventually the anxiety is being caused because there is a subliminal theme to that. What will people think? If the people will react in so and so way, what will happen? How will I face them again? Because there is this fear of humiliation. There is this fear that if I don't come perfect, I will not be accepted.
Yeah.
I will be boycotted. I will be abandoned, or I will be not given that attention as the other people are getting. So eventually, we are seeking those attributes of validation, assurance, also compassion, and at the same time, me being accepted, being attended to.
Yeah.
That is what is causing anxiety to the person. If at all we are able to just tiptoe with it, and we are able to have that pathway for this person, he or she can do wonders
Yeah.
without having that fear.
A lot of solutions have also been discussed. A lot of reality, a lot of relatable, things have been discussed.
Even if it brings a slightest amount of clarity, we have done our job.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
what I believe in.
And I'm sure that this will. I'm sure this will. Thank you so much for doing this. And I will see you very soon. Like, we will do this again. 100%.
Thank you. Thank you so much.